an eighth Resident Evil movie is on its way, and this one will have no characters from the games. Hey everyone, this is Digital Charcuterie. My name is James. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new to this channel, if you're looking forward to Resident Evil or movies in general, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to talk about it all the time as things progress with this Zach Cregger movie, the director of the recently released Weapons, which is currently holding a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes with an 87% audience score, which is insane. His previous film, Barbarian, earned 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and he has one, Miss March, which I believe is at like 9% or something from 2009. So we'll forget that one, but Barbarian, massively successful with the critics and a hit. And now you have Weapons, so he's a 1-2 punch from Zach Cregger, knocking things out of the park. And this guy is a massive fan of the Resident Evil video games. Obviously, if you've seen those movies, you can kind of understand why. And now he is tasking himself with making a new Resident Evil movie. Obviously, we had the first 6 with Mila Jovovich, which, I actually don't. It's wild that they made 6 of those movies. It's wild that they earned over $1 billion combined. I don't hate them. I like most of them, actually. I kind of find them somewhat enjoyable. And then you have Welcome to Raccoon City as well, which came out, and that one was supposed to reignite everything, and they just haven't been able to. I mean, they made 6 of them, so maybe they did figure it out, but Zach Cregger has never seen these movies at all, and he's taken a new approach to it, and some fans are feeling a little, neglected by this because, with the first Resident Evil movie 25 or so years ago, they took that approach where they had all new characters. You're not going to get people from the game, and they're saying, what are you doing, man? We've already got that. Why are we doing that again? I want to bring this article right here from Inverse up onto the screen, where you can see him talking. There's a weird shot, but that's Zach Cregger right there. The article says the Resident Evil remake is not going to tell Leon's story, Zach Cregger says. It is obedient to the lore of the games. It's just a different story. It goes down to say here, as much as Cregger may love those characters, though, he has been adamant that his Resident Evil film will tell a different story within the world of the saga. Let me say this is not breaking the rules of the games, Cregger tells Inverse. I am the biggest worshiper of the games, so I'm telling a story that is a love letter to the games and follows the rules of the games. That said, Cregger won't be retelling any story within the saga, though it will align with Resident Evil lore. Cregger's film is firmly outside of the characters of the game. It is obedient to the lore of the games. It's just a different story, Cregger continues. I'm not going to tell Leon's story because Leon's story is told in the games. Fans already have that. Cregger's comments align with recent updates from industry leakers who've suggested that his Resident Evil will feature a new original character, similar to Mila Jovovich's role in the first film franchise. If that troubles fans who were hoping to get Leon's adventures in live action, and with a touch more fealty than 2021's Welcome to Raccoon City, Cregger has a simple solution. They can play the game. Cregger is assured in his approach, but the fact that he's following in the footsteps of the 2000s film series might not instill fans with so much confidence. It also speaks to a growing trend of game adaptations. Most would rather tell an original story set in the world of the games than adapt one that already exists. But that strategy is a double-edged sword. The Resident Evil remake will probably have no problem attracting new fans and novices curious about the property, but longtime lovers of the games also deserve the chance to see the characters they played come to life in a different way. This newfound aversion to straightforward stories is adamantly odd, especially with the success of HBO's bar-for-bar remake of The Last of Us. The series effectively broke the video game curse by adapting the Naughty Dog game as is, with only minimal changes to its story. In its first season, at least. The new Resident Evil film, meanwhile, will adhere to the status quo, and it could be worse for it. Of course, Cregger may surprise us, but given Resident Evil checkered history on screen, surprise is the last thing fans seem to want. That's fair. I would say that is fair on a lot there. Like, fans went through it. Like I said, like, those first 6 movies are not really, they're Resident Evil, but they're so adjacent to it. But I will say this. I'm I actually love this franchise. But that being said, I'm a newbie to this franchise. I had Resident Evil 4 on PS2, and I've had a Resident Evil game since the first PlayStation, but I never actually got into them. I just would like play them and be like, I can't. This isn't my jam. It's not my thing. Uh, but in the last like 4 or 5 months or so, I think it was like April or May, I was just looking at the collection of games I had on my Nintendo Switch of all things, and I had Resident Evil Revelations, and I was like, you know what? I've had this on this thing for years. I bought it for like really cheap. I'm like, I had this, I should play it, and I got sucked into this thing, and then I got Biohazard, and I got even more sucked into that. And I want to bring up Biohazard. And look, I want to know your opinions in the comments down below as well. Are you worried about this? Do you think it's going to work? Your thoughts. But the thing with Biohazard is it is a whole new character, and it's very separate from the other Resident Evil properties as well. Like it's its own thing, right? You're thrust into this world, this new character thrust into this world, and that's why I think where Cregger's is coming from, it could actually work. It could play out like that, because what Cregger is saying is you know, I'm going to take the lore in the world. I'm just going to put someone new in there and give you a fresh perspective. Because the other thing too is they mention The Last of Us, and they're saying, you know, season 1 of The Last of Us, people loved season 1 of The Last of Us. The problem is people didn't like season 2 so much because they made many changes to the game. In the first season, they stayed pretty true and close to it. So the problem is, at some point, you have to tell a distinctive story, a memorable story. You're going to have to make changes, especially on film versus video game. I mean, in video game, what, you got 15, 20, 30 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is in story. And in a movie, you've got 2 hours. I mean, nowadays are like 5, but like you got like 2 hours to tell this story in a video game. So what are you going to do? And I think that the Resident Evil universe is so filled with lore that it would be simple, and in my opinion, I think it would be smart to tell a new story in that world if you're staying true to the characteristics of the game. He said in another interview that it's kind of like that thought where you're going down a hallway, you've got one bullet left, and you know something is on the other end coming at you, and you've got to be quick, skilled, and you've got to think fast, and you've got to figure it out. But it's haunting and it's terrifying. That's the understanding of the game, right? The basis of the game is like, I jumped so much playing these games, so it's like you know that understanding, I think, is what's going to make this succeed ultimately. Was why this film adaptation is finally going to break the I mean, the video game curse has kind of been broken, but it's going to continue to break it as well. I mean, you look at Mario Brothers. Look, that's a cartoon. It's completely different, but also there's no real story in Mario Brothers. So they just kind of did what they did, and they told this new thing, and people gravitated to it because I mean, they have characters from the game, obviously, so it's a little bit different. But I think Resident Evil, I think they figured out. I think Cregger right now, like, he's on such a roll that you've got to kind of put your faith in what he's doing. That being said, I do think it's a smart move and the right play to have a whole new character in the Resident Evil world, telling a story within the Raccoon City, within the umbrella confines of what it is. Like I said, Biohazard, you know, you play, I think it takes like an hour into gameplay or something before you really get a Resident Evil reference at all, if I'm not mistaken. And look, I mean, like I said, I'm a newbie. That's like, you know, the whatever third, fourth game that I played franchise, and now I'm like sucked all the way in. But playing it wasn't like, oh man, this isn't enough like Resident Evil. It was like, this game is awesome, and it's in that world, and because it's in that world, you can believe things and you can do things and utilize things in certain ways that make it more effective. And I think as long as you understand how the feeling, the vibe is around it, the atmosphere of Resident Evil, I think he's going to succeed, because I don't think we've had, I think Welcome to Raccoon City tried, but there hasn't actually been a Resident Evil movie that's had the proper vibe of the video game. And I think Cregger is onto that. And I think having new characters, because look, again, if you bring in an existing character, and that character, you know, either the actor or the character, something doesn't live up to what the gameplay is, their fans, not the normies that are going to go in and watch this thing. The fans are going to say, I don't know about this. I don't know. Like, it's going to take them out probably even more than having an original character. So I think just having an original character from someone as talented as Zach Cregger, I think that is what you need. I think that's going to work, and that's why I think this is going to be a good movie. Now, if it's successful, I don't know, because you've had, like I said, 7 other Resident Evil movies, and the 7th one didn't do too well, and the first 6 were they're like an anomaly. They're like the Fast and the Furious of zombie movies or something. Like they're just like this anomaly thing where people just went to go see them. They weren't massive, but they were enough, and they made like $1.2 billion in the long run. So it's a franchise people like, but are they tired of it? Like, would they see the name Resident Evil? Are they going to associate it with the other ones and say, why do I want to see that? Why do I want to? I mean, I can tell you when Raccoon City came out, my wife wasn't too interested in it because she actually liked the original Mila Jovovich movie. She said, well, why am I watching a remake? Like, that was kind of her mentality on it. And she didn't really care for the movie that much. But anyway, it is what it is. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm looking forward to this. I think Cregger right now is on a hot streak, so let him roll. I got another video coming out about him later on. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe button, and may you be the master of your own universe.